Sweet. Right, first episode of Loose Lips with Liku, and I've got a very special guest with me this evening. So, Warrington England international, Captain Warrington, Captain England Knights. He's also part of the Dream Team last year, and I'm privileged to call him a mate of mine, Danny Walker. Danny, thank you for coming on.
All good, mate. Always anything for you, Lips, you know that.
Cheers, lad. First off, how are you feeling? How's the injury? I know we were talking off camera then about it
Yeah,
a little bit.
it's. I'll be honest, it's annoying. I'm not gonna lie, it's been annoying, especially this week. They've obviously what's ahead this week. I'm sure we'll probably cover that at some point. But it's been going as well as it probably can be. I'm feeling probably way ahead of where I probably should be. So hopefully, fingers crossed and touching wood. I'll be back a little bit sooner than what it should be, but it's a knee injury. I've got to do everything right, and yeah, because if I don't, it can come back about me on the arse later down the line. So
Yeah, definitely. I know we mentioned that I think Jack Wellesby's just got that injury as well. So
yeah,
someone is
yeah,
obviously biting you on the arse and whatnot.
yeah. It's called lateral meniscus. It's called. It's basically a bit like the way my physio described it to me. It was it's like your shock absorber in your knee. So it's basically everything that's covering sort of your ligaments. Your ACL, PCL, MCL. And that's like sort of the first point of contact before you get to them, and that's torn. So if
Nice.
I'm honest, I've got quite lucky because I know Ollie Leyland, he's just done ACL, but he did his lateral meniscus too, so it's obviously gone straight through on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mad one. It's a mad one, but I'm on the mend, and yeah, hopefully be back start of
Yeah.
August.
Nah, that'd be good. Obviously, I know as a Warrington fan, I'd be buzzing to get you back in that team and whatnot because I know obviously we're going to talk about obviously this weekend massive game Challenge Cup final. Obviously, last year we'll not talk about the disappointment about that because we know what it was like and whatnot. But how do you know from what you spoke obviously to the lads, how they feeling, how they ready to
Yeah,
go?
you know what, mate? Quietly confident, and I think that's when we was going into the league game too. Everyone writ us off going into the league semi final. I know obviously I didn't play in that one. I just had the operation that week, but the boys were quietly confident all that week. And it's a very similar feel this week. Everyone's writing us off. Like no one's giving us a chance. There's probably a vast majority of people from Warrington too. They're probably writing us off. But as long as us lot within them four walls at our training ground believe it, then why can't we go and achieve it?
No,
But
100%.
I've always said from the minute the season started, and I think if we're on it on our day, you know what I mean, and we're at our best on our day, I don't think there's many teams that can beat us. Um, it's just having that day, and fingers crossed it comes on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. I've said this. I had this conversation with mates of mine because I obviously work at a school in St Helens, so I'm around a lot of Saints fans, a couple of Wigan fans, and I always say that I think on our day we're probably one of the toughest teams to beat.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah, I
obviously
agree.
been injuries have been hard for us in the 2025 season, so hopefully, like I say, it all comes good on Saturday.
That's
And you'll
all,
be
mate.
making
Hopefully.
your way down, won't you, as well, of course?
What was that, sorry?
You'll be making your way down there, of course.
Yeah, heading down there with Mrs. and kids Friday. And Matty Aston and his missus actually on the train. We've got a bit more space and we get down there a bit quicker come
Yeah,
Friday. So Friday
nice,
morning, yeah, we're heading down.
nice bit of daddy daycare as well.
Yeah,
Can't
we'll have. It won't be much for me and Matt. Me and Matt will be sat there. I'm glad that Matty's missus is coming along too, so she can run around after him for a bit too.
Nice one. So obviously you are my first guest on this podcast, and I've already mentioned that I am a teacher. And I remember when I first told you when
Yeah,
you used to coach me at Crossfields, and I remember the first time you ever asked me, you were actually in shock that I was a teacher.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I will. But the more, I remember when you first told me, I was a bit like, I never expected it, but I can see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. I obviously know teachers that from my school and stuff like that who still speak to this day, but I don't know anyone else who's a teacher. If you know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah. So, like I said, obviously as a teacher, I'm going to have to go into you at school. preferably high school, because that's where I teach. So, if I was to give you a kind of flashback into the past, and if you could describe Danny Walker as a pupil at high school, how would you describe him?
Oh, Jesus. It's a very good question, Lex. I was very, you know what? I'd say I was an okay pupil. Don't get me wrong. I was good on my days, but I could also have my bad days too. You know what I mean? And that stuff I weren't exactly proud of. But academically, for me myself, I struggle. I struggle sitting down in a classroom and writing things down, stuff like that. I struggle with it. And because I always sort of had a goal in my head, I want to be a professional rugby player. It's not I want to, I knew. You know what
Yes.
I mean? So that was always still in the back of my mind. And obviously, you get your teachers, like you might say it's pupils now, like you got to have the backup plan, you got to have the backup plan. And I fully understood that. But in my head, I was like, I'm going to be a rugby player.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I can totally agree with that. I know I remember teachers when I were at school telling me that's all I wanted to be was a
Yeah,
professional rugby player, rugby, and I kind of fell into that almost about the backup plan when it didn't work for me. So I
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
oh no, I'm gonna have to find something.
Well, that was sort of like where I was always sort of at too. Even when I was just coming through the academies and stuff like that, I was always just like, I know, I know, like not in an arrogant way, but in a confident sort of way. I was like, I know that I'm gonna make it. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? So it was like, if it comes down to it, and it comes to the point where I say I don't make it, then what'll be will be. You know what I mean? I'll go from there.
100%.
Um, but yeah, that's just the way I thought anyway. But in terms of people, you speak to me. If you spoke to me teachers now, they'd say I were good. I were. Don't get me wrong. I could be easily led at times, and I could. I'm. You know what I'm like. I'm a bit of a joker in that anyway. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I could be a bit of a class clown on my days. But if I had a good relationship with a teacher, especially, and we had that respect with each other. They knew me as a person. They understood me as a person. Then I'd always make sure that you know what I mean. I was on my best behaviour for them.
on that on
Yeah,
point.
yeah. Where there's just some that and that's just maybe because I was a kid. You know what I mean. I was young. Um, there's some that didn't quite understand me as a person because I can be quite an hard person to sort of understand. Um, you know what I mean. And still to this day, I'm a bit like that now. You know what I mean. I'm I'd like to say I'm very strong-willed. You know what I mean.
Very strong-willed.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah. That's how it works. I'd say I had a lot of friends. I had a lot of friends. I'm not going to say I was the perfect lad because I know for a fact that I weren't. If I could go back, there's things that I wish I'd probably changed in terms of my personality. Um, but yeah, I've learned loads from what I were like when I was 13, 14, 15 to now.
Hmm.
And it's made me a miles better person from who I were to where I am now. You know what I mean?
No, brilliant.
So yeah, I
Elaborating quite
couldn't put a
nicely to it.
word on it. I couldn't put a word on what I was
No,
like.
no,
Um,
it would be tough to put an
yeah,
exact word on
yeah.
what you'd be like. But
Especially
no,
because I don't know many words because I weren't academically clever. You know what I mean?
I won't have that at all, Dan. Favorite subject then? Obviously, I can already guess one of them, but was there
Yeah.
anyone that you'd think, oh, I didn't know you'd like that?
Yeah, you know what? Obviously, I know you're probably thinking of PE.
Yeah, very same as me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've obviously loved PE, everything to do with it, except from the theory side of it. You know what I mean? Again, the theory side of it, I struggled with it. I think I got a C, which is obviously still a pass. Although obviously I think it's changed now, isn't it? It's not a
Yes,
C anymore.
well, it was when,
Uh,
obviously when I was back in school. Yeah,
yeah, but yeah, I did get a C in the theory side of it. I got A stars in the practical side of it.
yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Sound a lot like me here, Dan.
Yeah, yeah, but the thing is that I was okay with it, but I weren't. I reckon I got away with the C because I knew so much anyway. You know what
Yeah,
I mean about
yeah,
that sort of thing, just
yeah.
naturally. The dog's in the background just eating his dinner again, as you
As
can
you
hear
do.
that.
Hey, I won't stop him.
You know what I mean? You got to eat when you got to eat and all that.
Correct.
But you know what? I loved history. I
Really?
loved history. I still do to this day. You ask me, missus, I'm always on YouTube looking back at World War stuff.
Really?
Yeah, Winston Churchill, Hitler, like, just really diving into all that side, all that around
I've
that
known you
time.
for a good 5 years now, Dan. I would never have thought history.
Yeah, yeah.
Love
No,
it.
that's honest truth. But you know what? I never took it as a GCSE though, and that's one thing I do regret. I wish I
Really?
did. The thing that scared me off with it, you had to write. I think it was like was it something daft, like a 7,000 word essay or something like that, and that just completely put me off.
Yeah.
I was just like, I can't do that. There's
Oh
nothing
God.
that's gonna make me do that. But I did love geography too. I
Yeah.
loved geography. But then he started when it got to GCSEs and we started learning about. I can't going to tell you what it were because this is what I mean. It went in one ear, went straight out the other. It's to do with the rocks and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and I
Yeah.
lost me, lost me. But learning about different countries and stuff like that, I was all for. But as soon as it come into all these how the volcano
Physical
erupts and stuff,
geography. Yeah. Yeah.
lost me,
Love it.
lost me.
Love it. Yeah. The only other thing I'm going to like say move on in a sec, but are there any teachers that inspired you? Because I know when I was doing obviously social media and whatnot, I asked the question, do I inspire any pupils, past or present, as a teacher? And I was wondering, did anybody inspire you back in the day?
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I probably had a few. Really, looking back at it now,
Hmm.
where you know what I mean, where I still highly respect to this day, and I still call if I see him, I go back to my school a fair bit, and I still call them sir, still call everyone sir and miss. You know what I mean? Because they're my
100%.
teachers. You know what I mean? But the one that's really sticking out in my head is he was my science teacher, and he was also my football coach. Let me let this dog out. Um, Yeah, he was also my football teacher,
Yeah.
and Mr. Esford is called. He was called Paul Esford. He's still there to this day. He's a bit of a younger chap, similar to yourself. And like I said, he just got me. He understood me as a person. Um, there wasn't many things in terms of any like words of advice or anything like that he gave me. I just had that much respect for him that he did inspire me. You know, if that makes
Yeah.
any sort of sense.
No, 100%. And I've heard it before from like I've had pupils before that I haven't taught, but still, and I found this out just through the like say through social media that I've not taught pupils, but they still kind of it's the presence, it's that kind
Yeah.
of I don't want to use a kind of like a word they use these days, but kind of aura about them.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, 100%. And I think if you asked anyone probably in my year, and we mentioned Mr. Hesford, everyone would say the same. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But I think because he was into his football, I loved football. Um, I was part of the football team.
Yes.
I was the captain of the football team too. So, you know what I mean? We just had that real good respect with each other. And he was, like I said, he was my science teacher. He wasn't my science teacher in year 7, 8, and 9, and I was absolutely gutted. I wanted him to be. And then year 10 and 11, fell into it, and I
Happy
was
days.
part of the sack, yeah. So, yeah, Mr. Esford, legend of a bloke. Still keep in touch with him now on Instagram every now and then. So,
Oh, brill. Love it. Oh, nice one. Thanks for that, Dan. So,
good mate.
obviously, what everybody wants to hear about is your rugby career. And we know, and I know where it all started Widnes, the mighty
Yeah,
Widnes Vikings.
yeah,
And obviously, before we obviously talk about your time at Widnes, everybody goes back to the famous video of yourself and Chris Hill in the Challenge Cup.
yeah.
I obviously want to get your take on it because it's one of the things that almost brought you into I would say, brought you into the Rugby League light.
Yeah. Uh, Kiss Hill, legend of a bloke. And I fully mean that. Like we're really close. Me and Ella. We call him Chill. And yeah, it was a weird one. He was in the game, and I think he gave away a penalty, and I've just come walking over to get the ball off him, and he won't give me the ball. So I've just
That's
like
right.
slapped it out. I've just like slapped out his hand, and then he's elbowed me. 'Cause obviously, a perfect height for him to elbow me. He's elbowed me in the head. And I've just pushed him. I said something like, I think it was like, can I swear? No, 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 I
Yeah,
won't swear. No, you got
love it.
students watching it. I said, some are you say, what the F are you doing, basically? And then he turned around and he called me something, you little midget, something like that. And then I've turned to get the ball, and I didn't realise that everyone's come running in from the other side. So it looked like on the video that I've turned away from him then as everyone's coming in, and
Yeah.
then I've gone and joined in. But that weren't the case. And I've said it to him. I've said it to him numerous times. Yeah, you might be 6'4", chill. You might have been 40 kilos heavier than me, but I'd still give it you, lad.
That's that
But
strong will we was talking about.
yeah. So, but nah, yeah, probably made me into that, got me out there a bit, didn't it? I remember it got
100%.
something daft. It comes up every year on my Facebook and stuff like that. In your memories and stuff.
Yeah.
It got something daft like God knows, it was over 1,000 shares at least.
Yeah, it was mad. And like
Yeah, went
everyone
everywhere.
just kind
That
of,
like, oh, I think it was like over 1 million views on Twitter.
yeah, everyone's
It's
it
mad.
kind of blew up at the time. And then, because you were older brothers, Luke and Ben. So
Yeah,
when I was at college, I'd obviously played against Luke and Ben. They were previously, I was at collegiate. And then it came up that obviously at the time, this young lad, Danny Walker's had a go at England international Chris Hill. And I'm like, oh my God, is that actually, I remember playing against your brother and your brothers and
yeah,
whatnot.
yeah,
Was that
yeah,
mad? But then,
yeah.
like I say, your time at
Special
Widnes,
game. It's a
how
special
did,
game, that too.
yeah, it was.
Yeah. I remember because that was my first one against Warrington, and it was at the HA, obviously being a
Yes.
Warrington lad. And he had a great role that game. It was just to come on, you're defending out on the wing or centre, and every single time you get in, I just think run every time. That was my role.
Sound bit like our mate Brad Stanway defending out on the wing.
Yeah, it's something like that. Something like
But
that, mate.
yeah,
Let me
go
get
on,
this.
Widnes, talk to me. How good was it? Kind of, as you spoke about earlier, being in high school and having that vision, that drive to be a professional rugby player. How did it feel being in that environment, 16, 17? Must have been mad.
Uh, Yeah, it was mad because I remember my first actual game for the first team was in the December that I'd left school. So I'd left school in the June, July time, whenever it
Yeah,
is. Um, and then I went pretty much straight into Widnes, like with the academy and stuff like that. I've trained a little bit with the first team and the school was really good with me. School let me out a few times to go and
nice.
train with the first team.
Oh, that's class.
Um, so that because our school Beaumont it used to be a sports school,
Yes.
William Beaumont Community, whatever it was called anyway, and they changed to Beaumont Collegiate Academy, but it was all about sports, and they were really good when they let me out when I was in year 11 for a few days. But yeah, it was weird. I went straight into training with the academy, because I've never done any sort of weight training properly upper body. We've done a fair bit of it lower leg, but we've never done it like that. So he's just trying to build me up, and then started pre-season with the first team in the September.
Wow.
So yeah, straight into it, Mad, it was mad because actually I was 16. I was probably 60 odd kilo. Um,
What? Just on a little tangent. What are you now? Because I've obviously doing a bit of research on you because getting all the stats and whatnot. Obviously, I know he's a mate, but your background. So what? Someone says 80 kilos. Someone says 85 kilos.
yeah,
Go on,
yeah.
Dad.
I'm around the 85. Yeah, yeah.
Around
On a
85.
good day, yeah, I'm about 85.
Height and weight 80.
At the minute, I'm probably a little bit less than that because I've lost a fair bit
Yeah,
of muscle in my leg. But I'm trying my best putting it on. I've just been smashing up the body, so yeah, around the 85 mark, around the 85 kilo
yeah.
mark.
Everyone's been like, what's that? Everyone's saying
I
something.
remember I debuted at 71 kilo. That's when I debuted. Um,
Am I right in saying that was against Lee?
Lee, yeah, it's Lee. Yeah, got knocked out after 14
No.
minutes. Yeah. I go off a concussion. Not completely sparked though. I got straight up, but I was all over the place running back. And Chris Briggs was screaming at me to get on the wing. I get out, sort of get out of the
Yeah.
way, get off. But I'll be honest, I didn't care. I remember I got a grand bonus. I got a grand bonus, and I was on the pitch for 14 minutes. There's 100 quid, 200 quid, 300 every step I'm in. Nah. But I remember after that one, just probably skipping a few bits here. But I remember thinking after that I'm probably not going to play again. You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
thinking like, I remember after everyone, like a lot of media and that saying, oh, he was too small. That's why he's got knocked out. blah blah blah. And in my head, then as a 17-year-old kid, when I made my Super League debut, it was like, you know what, you're probably right. You know what I mean? And I've never been like that. I've always been like, nah,
I'm
forget what they say.
I'm
You
Danny
know what I mean?
Warren with the
Yeah,
ball.
yeah. I've always been like that. But at that time, I was obviously a bit down on confidence, just been
Yeah,
knocked out in my debut. But then Dennis Betts, who gave me a debut, really, really good. 2 and a bit week later, once I got over my protocol, we played Saints at home on a Friday night on Sky, and he gave me another shot, and yeah, it sort of went from there.
mad. And that's the thing.
Yeah,
It's crazy how something something like that, like you say, could have knocked you down, knocked your
yeah,
confidence, and then
yeah,
there could be a completely different conversation that
yeah,
we'd be
yeah,
having.
no, 100%, yeah, 100%. But it goes to show too that with coaches giving you trust, you know what I mean? I've had a lot of coaches, and I've had a lot of coaches that don't at the same time.
Yes,
You know what I mean? In terms of the trust side of things and stuff like that, I've had a lot that are really, really good and some that are not so good. Um, but yeah, the ones that do give you that trust, you know what I mean. You have a real good connection with them, and I did with Dennis, still do now.
yeah,
But yeah, and Brett Hudson too. He was unbelievable for me. He was my academy one, and he was the assistant coach too. Um,
fab.
yeah, legend, legend.
But then, like I say, I think you had a little bit of I think was it a game at Rochdale or something like that, just to
Yeah, yeah. Played one game at Rochdale. That was when I'd come to Warrington and all that.
yes,
So I can't remember how many games I played over at Widnes. I think it's around 30 marks, something like that.
yeah,
And then when we got relegated there, I moved to Warrington. And yeah, that first year, um, I went and played one game on dual reg. I remember the game that we were going to send me was against Widnes at Widnes, and I said, "There's not a chance."
no,
I said, "There's not." I like, I love playing rugby. Don't get me wrong, but that one game. 6 months after I just left and been getting called a Judas and some
oh
death threats
no,
and shit and stuff like that. Of
yeah, yeah,
going, I'm not going there playing that game. Like
not a chance.
let's think here, let's think with our heads a little bit. It's not happening. So I played the week after away at Bradford, so it was even better
I was gonna say,
then.
but then that day you obviously with Widnes going down, that day you signed for Warrington as a Warrington lad, obviously Warrington fan, you must have been like cloud nine stuff.
Yeah, we're mental. And you know what? It was coming about probably coming to we sort of knew at Witness what our fate were going to be. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? We'd lost our coach. We had a lot of players out. We had a lot of young lads in playing, and we were just enjoying it. But we sort of knew what was coming.
yeah,
The Toronto were coming up from the champ, but they was obviously doing really well in the champ, and they had an unbelievable team.
yeah,
And we went to Toronto, and we had to beat Toronto to stay up, and they ended up beating us by a try or something like that in the end, which sent us down. But before all this, I sort of already knew what my plan were.
yes,
If we had signed a long term deal with Widnes, but if we were to go down, I sort of already had it in place to what was going to happen.
yes,
Because your contract goes void and stuff like that, which
yeah, yeah.
caused up a bit of a storm
I
after
can
it.
imagine.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what I mean. As a young lad, I wanted to know what my future was going to look like, and Warrington, they were great. Um, I've been speaking to my agent, like I say, and I knew that there would have been some sort of interest if Widnes were to go down.
Yeah,
So and Warrington were great, and as soon as obviously the fate happened, and I actually fully sat down with Warrington after that, and I knew that that's where I wanted to go, and they really wanted me, and that was the main part of it. That was why I stayed at Widnes for so long too, through my scholarship academy and stuff like that. It was because that they wanted me. I
yeah,
felt wanted, and that's why I'd never come to Warrington beforehand, because I
yeah,
felt more wanted by Widnes. And then obviously I had a couple of different options around that time, and I just felt so wanted by Warrington. I didn't even go and see any of the other clubs after it, because that's what I wanted, and sort of like third time lucky, my hometown. That's where I wanted to be.
yeah, massive. And like I say, that almost feel of want is what you want. Obviously, as a rugby player, you want to be a part of something
Yeah,
special, no matter when it is at that time with that team. So, no, it's
exactly.
mad that you've, like I say, signed for your hometown club and then kind of I don't know what I would describe it like, in and out, trying to fight your way in, and then I want to say, was it 2021, just after COVID?
Yeah,
It's kind of
where it sort of fits in
Danny
there.
Walker. Danny Walker's here now.
Yeah,
Because I know you were coaching us at the time at
yeah,
Crossfields,
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
and
it's
it
always
kind of
weird on, yeah, like you said, like my first, and I struggled a bit, I'll be honest with you. My first year especially, I struggled with not playing, you know
mm,
what I mean? Because like I said, I played 30 odd games over at Widnes across 2 years.
yeah,
Well, a year and a half, should I say.
mm,
So I played a fair bit of rugby at first team level for, I think it's like 32, something like that. Um, so I played a fair bit of first team games there across a year and a half. And then I come to Warrington and I think I'd only played 10, 11 games, something like that my first year. And it
right,
wasn't the case of playing 60 or 50 minutes. It was, or 80 minutes, whatever. It was playing 15, 20 max. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And sometimes five. You know what I mean? And I struggled with it. I felt like I did play rugby much. Uh, More mentally too. You know what
yeah,
I mean? I was a young lad out in me, like in my own town. You'd go out, you start getting recognised a bit more. It paid a bit of like I paid a bit of a price for it in terms of mentally and stuff like that through
mm,
that year. Um, Obviously we had a tough time with my partner and stuff like that through that year too because
yeah,
I just hate. I felt like I was falling out of love with it. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Um, but yeah, and then like I say, we went into the pre-season back in the 2019, going into the 2020 year, and I just thought I'm just going to attack this, like I'm just going to go
yeah,
after it. And a really good pre-season. Played the first 3, 4, 5 games, something like that, and then boom, COVID it.
mm,
So you know what I mean. I was starting to get into it a bit. COVID it. You're off for 6 months. You know what I mean. Whatever it were. But yeah, and then back end of that year, we had a decent back end of that year. And then, but yeah, it was around 2021, wasn't it? 2021, where it was my first sort of year where I'm back. You know what I mean. I'm here for
I
Warrington.
remember
You
it
know what I
all
mean.
being that kind of like, oh God, Danny Walker's here now.
Yeah.
Like it's almost
Mm.
like, because obviously Darryl Clark being the player that he is,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was being that kind of mainstay, but then you almost kind of put your stamp on saying, I'm in my own club, I'm at my hometown here, this is my club,
Mm.
I'm going to put my stamp on this, and this is going to be, that 9 shirt is going to be mine. And it was
Yeah.
obviously meant to see as a,
It's a weird one, that like I knew that Daz is unbelievable. I've always said that,
yeah,
and Dad's been always been great for me. But at the same time, I've got to have that self drive too. You know what I mean? As
yeah,
anyone does in any sort of environment. You've got to have that self drive. And like I say, yeah, in back of my head, I was like, I'm going to be the nine here one day. Um, and yeah, that was like I say, that was the year where I probably played a fair bit more. Injuries sort of helped me too. Don't
mm,
get me wrong. Daz had got a couple of injuries that year, which kept him out for a couple of weeks here or there. But yeah, yeah,
yeah. And then, like you say, I remember the time at the end of 21 when you were coaching us and you said, I'm going to, I'm going to stop this year. Because I remember at presentation, I remember you telling me that I've had a good year this year and I'm just going to attack it again,
yeah,
2022. And like I said, you attacked it 2022, 2023. And we know what happened in them years, up and down, and you've had
yeah.
highs and lows. But then obviously I want to go into 2024 now. I'm a massive fanboy of your head coach, as you probably know. I always keep saying my boy's going to be, it's Project Sam Burgess. How influential has he been on you from last year? Because you then end up subsequently England making the dream team for the Super League. Like that connection you said between like teachers and coaches, I'm sure Sam's is another one that you obviously going to speak highly about.
Exactly that. Exactly that. I think Sam come in straight away and um, he sort of told me that he trusts me. And because going into that, we just signed Sam Powell and Brad Dwyer. You know what
Yes.
I mean? So in the back of my head, I'm going, hang on a minute, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like I'm going, what's going on here? You know what I mean? But he told me straight away, straight after the England games at the back end of that year, I seen him at one of the games, and he was just like, look, you're going to be in my nine. And straight away we had a great connection from the off. It's more of a, you know, you massively respect him for who he is, 100%, and he's a great
Mm.
coach. But you're more of mates, sort of thing.
Yeah,
If that makes sense, like not in
almost,
terms of you just mates. You have
almost like
like,
a man manager.
I mean, of what a mate, what you can speak about with a mate and what you can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. No, and
Um,
it's almost, if you've probably had that throughout, obviously, if we've been at school as well, like you have that connection, say, with your old science teacher, and
yeah,
things
yeah,
you'd say
yeah.
to him that you probably wouldn't say, you wouldn't say to a mate, or they'd be so tough that you'd say to your mates, you wouldn't obviously say to him. And
Into him, yeah, 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 yeah. And that's how it's always sort of been with me and Sam. And I don't think anything will sort of change that. But yeah, he's been massively influential on me. Sort of I learned a role last year of, I felt like it was a bit of a mad start to the year this year, and then I've had to drift in and out of different positions and stuff. And then obviously this had happened to me knee, so it's been a bit of a weird,
yeah,
tough year this year. But last year was a great year for myself personally. Um, obviously got into the dream team too, and that was I probably didn't quite realise how sort of a good of a personal achievement it sort of is.
no,
You know what I mean? And I probably won't do until sort of my back end of my career, you know what I mean, or until I've retired. Because
yeah,
it's just like in my head, I'm like, look, there's a lot of great hookers in the league, don't get me wrong, but in my head, I'm like, I believe that I'm the best, you know what I mean? Not in an arrogant way.
no, but that
Um,
strong will that you said you've had from being, as I say, a 13-year-old
yeah.
lad at high school. So
Yeah, obviously I get these other hookers that are unbelievable. There's Pape, Jez Litton's killing it. You know what I mean? But in my personally, I believe when I'm the best, I'm the best. You know what I mean? When I'm at it, I'm the best sort of thing. Yeah. Like I said, great. Yeah. And then I was a bit frustrated at the back end. Obviously got picked for England. Um, but yeah, I didn't end up playing, and I fully understood it. Because Mikey had obviously won Man of Steel.
yes,
And it's going to be hard for anyone to get in over George and Harry, for Mikey's sort of
yeah, of
sense.
course,
But then it's also got that, you know what I mean? You've got Daz who killed it the year before for
yes.
England against Tonga. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I
he
went to
deserved that. He deserved,
that.
yeah, yeah, you're Tongan, innit? You know what I mean? So he deserved to be the nine. And then obviously it was a battle between obviously myself and Mikey, but Mikey's man of steel, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I fully understood the side of it. I was frustrated because I felt more ready last year than I did the year before.
yes,
You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
But I fully understood it at the same time. Got a good relationship with Wayne too, so yeah,
yeah.
I
I
got
know.
it.
I've like I said, I spoke to you before about what Sean Wayne like as a bloke because you hear all the stories, and I remember you've always said that, like I say, Sean's like one of those like Sam Burgess is, like you say with Dennis Betts, you've got that good connection with.
Yeah, 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 yeah. He's lost very strong will though. You know what I mean?
Yes,
This is straight down the line too.
no,
So
I love it. And there is obviously one thing I am going to touch on because it was massive at the time. Obviously, within the town of Warrington, we're going to do Canberra talk because, and I obviously wanted to speak to you beforehand about it to make sure we're all good with it. But yeah, obviously the NRL came sniffing, and
yeah,
my first question is, before we go into obviously the as much as you want to go into it, how did that feel in terms of, oh my god, like because everyone thinks NRL is pinnacle, but
yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
Obviously,
yeah, yeah,
rugby
yeah,
fans. What was that
yeah.
feeling like?
Uh, Mad, yeah, mad. It's weird one. It's weird. Like you just smile. You know what I mean? You're just
Yeah,
like, wow. You know what I mean? That's sick. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, that's sort of where we're at. I was very close to going. I was very close to going. I think, coaching you boys last year when I too, and
yes,
I said to you boys that we were going to be coaching the year after,
yeah.
and that
Because
was
I
one of the
remember
main reasons.
that coincided because I remember the rumours coming out around
Yeah,
Walker to Canberra, Canberra want Walker, and I remember you'd obviously mentioned it at the time, and I think I might have texted you saying obviously whatever happens and whatnot, because I always and I've been a bit personal here, but your my connection with you as coach and player, you brought my love for rugby back.
yeah, yeah,
Playing
yeah,
21, playing 24, you brought my love back for rugby, and I think I've had that connection with yourself, like you've had
yeah,
with
100%. Yeah,
Sean and whatnot. But I remember that time, and it was like, oh my god, it's Danny going? Is he going? What's
Yeah.
happening?
No,
So then,
yeah, but yeah, I was so close, so close. The only sort of thing that sort of changed my heart, and I've said this before in other interviews and stuff like that, it was the thing, the outweighing thing was, what if Warrington go on and win it and I'm not a part of it?
yes,
And I'm not talking about the Challenge Cup, I'm talking about the big one.
the
And
big
I've
one.
said,
The old,
at the minute you're looking at our year and you're going, you know what I mean? They're not. That's probably what outside people are thinking, but
yeah,
I think we've well and truly got it in us. And look, it might not happen this year, might not happen next. You know what I mean? Never know. But if I feel like if I'm not a part of it, I'll be absolutely wounded.
mm,
And that was one thing that was burning away in the back of my head. As
yeah,
much as I was this close to going, you know what I mean? That was outweighing. When I fully sat down and thought about it, that outweighed it.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it was so close to happening. I was actually looking for places and stuff like that over there to live, and um, I had a few good chats with Ricky Stewart. The club, Warrington were great with me too. Sam were great with me, with loads of advice on what he thinks I should do and shouldn't
yeah.
do in terms of where he thinks I should be at right now. And um, but yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. But don't get me wrong, I'm buzzing to stay here too. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
no, you could.
It weren't the case of no, I'm going straight away. It was let me think about this. I need to think about this. And look, I've got two young girls too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
Navy was only
I would say about
2 month old when it all come about. It was around this time last year actually. It was around the Wembley time when I first found out about it at Wembley.
Wow.
Yeah, so that night after Wembley, um, that's when I found out about it. So yes, it's not far off a year to the day when it
Talking
all
about
come
mixing
about.
ball of emotions, eh? Mixing ball there, right? You've just feel the dejection of obviously 2024 Challenge Cup to them being told that
Yeah. Well, it weren't the case of look, like these
no,
really
no,
want you.
yeah,
It was like these have got a bit of interest in you. You know what I mean? But look, like I've never been one to go away from it and say that I wouldn't go because I'd love to go. You know
no,
what I mean? In terms of, I say I'd love to go. Like that is a dream to go and play over there one day.
of course
But
it is.
I'm also living a dream playing for Warrington each. I'm training for Warrington each and every day.
Yes,
So you know what I mean. Either way, I'm more than happy now where I'm at. But there's also the outside dream of one day would have want to play in the NRL one day, yeah. But could I live with that not happening? Probably. You know what I mean?
no,
Like that'd be
it's
something
like
at the end of my
you
career
can,
where I go, oh, you know what I mean? I wish I went. You know what I mean? At some point, but like I say, it'd mean more for me to win something here at Warrington than it
yes,
would to me to go playing there. You know what I mean?
no, 100%. Because I
So
remember going off that as well. I remember we talked about 2019, the Challenge Cup.
yeah,
Then I remember you saying that you were obviously that was like your first year at one. You was a part. You went down with the team and whatnot, but you obviously weren't in that
starting
squad and
squad,
whatnot.
yeah.
So that's I said probably another burning desire of yours. You want to be in those teams that are
100%, yeah, and I think that's what thing I've probably struggled with for these last couple of weeks. You know what I mean? Because I know I'm not going to be a part of it in terms of being on the pitch. I've
yes,
tried my absolute best all week this week in terms of giving my point of view on how we can go about beating them.
yes,
You know what I mean? So I've been trying to keep as much as part of it as I can, but at the same time, it's killing me a little bit. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
But
But
almost like
as soon as we get down there, and as soon as kick off happens, you know
that's
what I
it.
mean? Yeah. And then after the game, once we've won it, fingers crossed.
Yeah,
I feel part of it then. Hopefully,
I'll be,
I'm
I'll
not
be
doing a John Terry though. I'll not be doing a John Terry and putting full kit on.
get the kids on.
Oh, James Madison. James Madison did it, didn't
Yes, he
he?
did.
James Madison did it.
Oh, don't. It's another thing. Kick me while I'm down. Bloody hell.
That's it.
But yeah, honestly, like it's been obviously class to chat. We've got one last thing I want you to do for me, Danny, and that's a
Yeah,
quick
let's have it.
round. So I'm going to
I
throw
what? Sorry, quick fire.
quick fire round, 10
Let's have
questions.
it.
I want you to answer them.
Quick fire in terms of one words or just
Uh,
a little sentence.
little sentence,
A sentence. Don't go
sentence,
into it
one
too
word,
deep then.
etc. Completely up to you how you answer it. But question one: favorite meal.
Oh. You threw me off like a favourite meal. I said I'm not going to go into it too deep, but this has got to, you know what I mean? You can't, for me, it goes off what I'm feeling. You know
Yes.
what I mean? I can't say what my favourite meal is because I don't know what I'm feeling. You know what I mean?
Man after my own heart. If I want a Chinese, I want a Chinese. If I want
Exactly.
an Indian, I
Exactly.
want
If I
an
want an
Indian.
Indian, I want an Indian. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's always a toss up with them. Really. So Chinese or Indian, million
Love it.
percent. They'd be my death row anyway. I'd be
Love
my
it.
death row. Salt
Nice.
and pepper chicken, probably.
Question 2. Hero.
Hero. Hero. In terms of rugby or in general?
Any walk of life.
My dad.
Love it.
My dad, yeah. My
Big up,
dad.
Mr. Walker.
Yeah, that's the one.
Uh, Question 3. Travel to the past or travel to the future?
Wow. Great question again. I don't know. You know what? No, I don't want to see what's ahead. I don't want to let each and every day teach me. But at the
Yes.
same time, I don't want to go back because what things that have might have made mistakes in the past, but I've learned from them now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a great question, but I really don't know.
I think the historian in you, the secret historian in Danny Walker, is saying, go and have a
Well,
look.
in terms of my own life,
No, no, no.
or
No, no, no.
oh, get
Future
me
onwards.
back, get me back.
Get me
Yeah,
back to the past.
travel back in time, 1,000,000%, man. There, 1,000,000%.
Question 4. What would your job be if you weren't being a professional rugby player?
Yeah, I get this asked this question a fair bit,
Yeah.
and I still to this day don't know what answer to give people because I really don't know. Because I was always, like I said to you before, I was always, I'm going to be rugby.
Yeah.
You
Get
know
a
what I
job at
mean?
Paul Luke at Colony. Up
You know
Colony.
what? Probably something along them lines. Yeah, probably something along them lines. Or you know what? I think about it all the time now. What I want to do after rugby, and
Yeah.
maybe if I didn't get into coaching, because you know I love me coaching.
Yes.
If I didn't get into it, like maybe a fireman or something.
Oh,
Yeah,
saving
yeah,
lives.
yeah.
Chicago 911 over here. Love it. Next one. Best career memory.
Best career memory. It's between my debut, even though like I say I got knocked out, or my England debut.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love it. Sweet or savoury?
sweet,
Ooh.
sweet. Yeah,
Like it.
yeah.
I probably know the answer to this because we've met the dog himself. Cats or dogs?
Dog, 100%, all day,
100%.
every day, all day, every day.
Here we go. Look, you'll love this one. 100 duck-sized Danny Walkers. Who would you rather fight? 100 duck-sized Danny Walkers or one Danny Walker-sized duck?
Jesus, the one Danny Walker size dog. Yeah,
1-on-1.
yeah, because
100 little
me's.
yous.
No.
Angriest
And
little.
then again, actually, they'd just be volleying them. But yeah, I reckon I'm taking the big one. I'll take the
Taking
duck. I'll take the
taking on
duck.
the big
Yeah,
duck.
yeah. Just getting a lot.
Correct. uh, I think I've heard.
It's not that big anyway, is it? It's gonna be 5'9", isn't it?
There's another one. I've heard 5'6" on the internet.
But that's a lie. Do you want me to tell you? Right, I'm gonna tell you. I'm actually 5'7" and a bit. Right, 7.5. I'll say
Go.
closer to 5'8" than I am 5'7". However, right, Matty Davis plays for Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going off subject a bit
Go,
here.
love it. Go for it.
He changed my Wikipedia, right? So like 5'5" and about 60 odd kilo, right? And we played a Challenge Cup game one year, and Challenge Cup it must have been BBC. They must use whatever's on there,
Wikipedia.
and it come up 5'5", something like
62
seven,
kilos.
yeah. And I remember after the game, I've seen it when I've been watching the telly back. I'm like, what? You know what I mean? And then Davis had said that I was messaging Davis was close with him, and I was like, what's going on? He's like, I've changed it. Mate, I've changed your Wikipedia before, mate. And that's exactly what I put. They must have took it off there, mate. Oh,
He's paid £5 to change your Wikipedia page.
yeah, literally.
Brilliant. This next one, I think I've heard before because I think you mentioned it in Vegas. But the quote or statement you live by.
Quote or statement you live by. Think gold, never settle for silver.
Yes, and I remember that through the magician you met in Vegas. That was class.
There we go.
Last part, by the way. And then last one from me, question 10. If one wish could be granted for you, what would it be?
Let my daughters have a great life, successful life.
Love it.
That all over anything. You know what I mean?
Love it.
If they're happy, then their happiness, yeah.
Love it. Dan, honestly, for the first episode, thank you so much. You've been an absolute
All good, mate.
You would be.
I hope you go on and smash it, lad. Really do. You know, you think the world here, so yeah. Go on and
Brilliant.
smash it, mucker.
Just want to say thank you to you guys who are watching and stay around for episode 2. Take it easy. Nice one. Let's stop
All
that.
good, mate.